Alright, so I never thought I'd be that guy. You know, the one posting his personal disaster story online like some rejected script from a daytime soap. But here we are. I've been married to my wife, Lacey, for almost 4 years now. We're both in our early 30s, no kids, just us and our two rescue dogs. Moved into this rental house about a year and a half ago. It's nothing crazy, 3-bed, 2-bath, a nice little fenced-in backyard. It's quiet, safe, simple. At least I thought it was. Our landlord, let's call him Rick, is an older guy, maybe 50s, divorced twice, always showing off his I still got it cologne vibe. He owns a few properties in our area and handles maintenance himself. Seemed like a decent dude at first. A little too friendly with Lacey, maybe, but I brushed it off. I didn't want to be that husband. Lacey and I were good. Not perfect, but who is? We both work full-time. She's in event planning, I'm in IT. Schedules clash sometimes, stress happens, but we made it work. Or so I thought. About 2 months ago, things started to shift. Lacey started dressing up more. Even on days she was supposedly just working from home. She'd put on makeup, curl her hair, wear perfume, and never left the house. At first I joked about it. Told her she was looking nice. She laughed it off, said she was just trying to feel more put together. Okay, fair enough. But then there was her phone, glued to her hand 24/7. She used to toss it anywhere around the house. Now it never leaves her side. Notifications would come in, and she'd either hide the screen or flip it over. One night, I saw a message flash briefly before she swiped it away. Just a name, R. I asked, who's R? She said, relax, it's Rachel from work. Only, she doesn't have a coworker named Rachel. Not in the 6 years I've known her. That was the first time I felt that drop in my stomach. A week after the R is for Rachel lie, Rick, our landlord, stopped by. Claimed he needed to check the gutters after a heavy storm. Normally he texts me, gives a heads up, asks if someone will be home. This time, he just showed up. Lacey answered the door in yoga pants and a tight tank top. No bra, hair curled, lip gloss on. I was working from home that day. Sitting in the spare bedroom, we turned into an office. I could hear them laughing in the kitchen. Lacey didn't even mention I was home until I walked out to get coffee. Rick barely looked at me. Said something like, hey man, just swinging by for a quick check. You guys been having drainage issues? Nope, I said. All good here. He stayed for an hour. Walked around the house. Checked the attic for some reason. Lacey followed him like a puppy. That night, I asked her what that was all about. Oh, he said some of the other units had water damage from the rain, she said. He was just being proactive. Cool. Except we don't live in a unit. This is a standalone house. There are no other units. I didn't press, but I started noticing a pattern. Every time Rick came by, Lacey would either make sure she was home or suddenly become very available to let him in. I checked the calendar. He'd been checking on things for times in 3 weeks. Always mid-afternoon. Always when I wasn't supposed to be home. So I started changing my schedule without telling her. Came home early one Thursday, and guess what? Rick's car was in the driveway. I pulled in and saw him through the living room window, sitting on the couch. Lacey was across from him, laughing, her hand on his knee. By the time I walked through the front door, she had moved to the kitchen and was wiping the counter with a rag like she'd been cleaning all along. Rick stood up, greeted me with that used car salesman smile, and said, just talking to the missus about the HVAC. Might need to replace it before winter. Right, the HVAC. The same one he checked 2 weeks ago. Cool, I said. I'll take a look at the quote when you've got it. He nodded, patted me on the shoulder like we were old pals, and left. Lacey acted like nothing happened. No explanation, no awkwardness. Like I hadn't just walked in on something that smelled way off. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did she. She pretended to. But I saw her roll over and check her phone around 3 a.m. And now I really wanted to know who R was. After that late-night phone check, something in me snapped. Not the loud kind of snapping. More like a quiet, surgical click. I decided if she was going to keep playing games, I was going to start playing smarter. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I just started watching. I remembered a trick a buddy at work once told me about checking devices connected to your Wi-Fi. Took me 2 minutes to log into the router. Guess who had his iPhone connected to our network? Rick. Now, that wouldn't be that weird if it had happened once or twice. But the router log showed a pattern. His phone had connected to our Wi-Fi 8 times in the last 3 weeks. Always between noon and 3 p.m. Always on days I was scheduled to be out of the house. I took screenshots, dated
Я
them,
понял, что ты
saved
камень.
them
Что
to a
ты
hidden
кайфуешь?
folder.
Не понял.
Then I went digging deeper. We both share an iCloud family account for streaming, music, backups, etc.
Что ты
She probably
нервуешь?
forgot or assumed I didn't know how to use it. But I'm an IT guy, remember? That account gave me access to her location history. Her messages? No. But her device logs? Yes. And that's when I noticed she had set up a second email under her name. A throwaway Gmail, created just last month. I searched her MacBook, one she barely used anymore. Now I know why, and found it still
Что за
auto-saved her
Betrayal?
browser passwords. I logged in. Boom. Jackpot. That email had multiple threads. One of them was with a contact saved as Handyman. I nearly laughed out loud. Who the hell actually uses that nickname unironically? You guessed it. Handyman wasn't talking about clogged drains. The messages weren't explicit, but they were familiar, comfortable, like a relationship.
Где
One
маска
message read,
Бэтмена?
"Thanks for today. I
Мама,
needed that.
да.
It's been so hard
Хочешь
pretending
до
like
мамы?
everything's fine around him." Around him, meaning me.
Где
Another,
маска
"You
Бэтмена?
always know how to
Покажи мне.
make me feel seen." And my personal
Где маска
favorite,
Бэтмена?
"Don't forget your shirt next time."
Где?
Yeah, real subtle, lacy. That night, I went to bed like normal. Kissed
А
her
ну зараз
goodnight.
зачекай.
Told her I loved her. Then I stared at the ceiling for 5 hours while the image of Rick sneaking out of my living room played over and over in my head. But I still didn't say a word. Because I had a plan. The next morning, I called in sick. I waited until Lacey left for her morning workout. She does this 3 days a week at a private gym across town. And then I got to work. I installed a camera. Not some big, obvious nanny cam. I'm not an idiot. This was a tiny black lens embedded in the base of a fake smoke detector. Bought it off Amazon months ago for a completely unrelated project. Never used it until now. I mounted it in the living room, angled perfectly at the couch and the front door. Then I set it to record on motion detection only. Nothing stored on the device either. Everything uploads to a private cloud folder I locked behind 3 passwords. That same day, I also set up a second camera in the kitchen facing the hallway, just to be safe. Lacey didn't notice either one. She barely looked up from her phone long enough to realize I'd even been home all day. That weekend, Rick didn't come by. Neither did any handyman. But Monday, I pretended to leave for work at 7:45 a.m. Like always. Instead, I drove around the corner, parked behind the gas station, and waited. At 12:16 p.m., I got a notification. Motion detected. Living room camera. I opened the app.
А ну.
It took a second to buffer, and then there it was. Rick, walking in the front door like he owned the place. Lacey greeted him in a robe. Not even tied all the way. They hugged. A long hug. He kissed her forehead. Then her lips. She giggled and said something I couldn't make out, and then they disappeared down the hall. That was it. I had my proof. Still, I waited. I sat in my truck for 3 hours. At 3:38 p.m., Rick left. Lacey texted me 30 minutes later. "Hey babe, don't forget to grab milk on the way home." Milk. Unbelievable. I walked in like everything was normal. She kissed me on the cheek like she hadn't just had another man in our bed. I asked how her day was. "Oh, quiet. Just worked on some emails. Took a nap." A nap. I smiled. Told her she looked rested. She smiled back and said, "You're sweet." I almost threw up. But I wasn't ready to explode yet. Because if I was going to nuke this marriage, I wanted it to be undeniable. Irrefutable. I wanted to see how far she'd go. How long she'd keep lying to my face. And most of all, I wanted to know what the hell Rick was really doing here. Because something still wasn't adding up. Why him? And what exactly was she getting out of it? The day after Rick's little visit, I took the dogs on a long walk and came back early, just to poke around a little. Lacey had gone to run errands. She didn't take long, and I knew I had maybe 30 minutes tops. I started in the bedroom. Now, let me be clear, I'm not the snooping type. Or at least I didn't used to be. But something was off. It wasn't just the affair itself, it was how comfortable she was with it. Like this wasn't just some fling. Like she belonged to him. That's what I needed to understand. Under our bed, there was a storage bin we hadn't opened in months. It was where we kept old Halloween costumes and extra blankets. Or so I thought. I slid it out. On top were the blankets, all right. But underneath? A small red box. Jewelry sized. I opened it. Inside was a gold chain I had never seen before. Definitely not from me. Rick's style? Could be. Beneath it, folded carefully, was a receipt. Local jewelry shop. Paid in cash. No name. Dated 2 weeks ago. Next to the box was an envelope with a handwritten note inside. Just one line. Can't wait for the day we don't have to sneak around anymore. No signature. But the handwriting wasn't hers. She kept that. She kept that under our bed. I put everything back exactly as I found it. No trace. No clue I was ever there. That night, I asked her about the bin. Hey, do you remember if we still have that old skeleton costume from last year? Halloween's coming up. She barely looked up from her laptop. Should be under the bed, I think. Just like that. Calm. Normal. Mind if I dig it out later? Go ahead. I haven't touched that stuff in forever. Haven't touched it in forever, huh? Another lie. That same night, I got another notification from the camera. This time, it was just her. In the living room. She picked up her phone and made a call on speaker. I couldn't hear the full conversation, but I caught a few lines that chilled me. No, not yet. I think he suspects something. Yeah, I'm being careful. Then silence. She walked to the kitchen and turned off the lights. I sat there, alone in my office, watching the woman I married prepare to betray me again. And then an idea hit me. If she was willing to lie this easily, maybe she'd lie about something even bigger. Maybe I could flip the script on her. So the next morning, I left a small box on the kitchen counter. Inside was a necklace. Nothing fancy, just one I bought from Amazon. Cheap, but elegant enough to look real. I also left a note. For everything you do, I love you. R. I watched her find it later that day. She opened it, paused, looked around. Then she smiled. She thought it was from him. That's when I understood it wasn't only about physical desire. She was falling for him. And she had no idea what I was about to do next. By now, I was deep into this. I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the loud, punch-the-wall kind of way. It was colder than that. Quieter. Like watching someone dig their own grave and just handing them a better shovel. That necklace stunt? Gold. She didn't ask me about it. Didn't mention the note. Just wore it 2 days later like it was nothing. Wore it to bed. Rolled over that night and whispered, "Love you, babe," while her hand absent-mindedly touched the charm. Rick never even gave it to her. I did. And she believed it came from him. That told me everything. It wasn't about guilt. It wasn't about a mistake. She was gone. Mentally, emotionally, gone. She was playing house with me while living a fantasy with him. And the worst part? She was good at it. So I got better. I started planting little seeds. Small changes. Came home late. Locked my phone. Changed my computer password. Stuff I knew would get her attention. And it worked. She got twitchy. One night she came into the office while I was working and leaned against the door frame like she used to back when things were good. "You've been quiet lately." I didn't look up. Just tired. "You've been working late a lot." I finally met her eyes. "Yeah, gotta keep up." She walked in. Sat on the edge of the desk. "You'd tell me if something was wrong, right?" I gave her a look. Just a long pause. "Then, would you?" She blinked. Laughed. A little too loud. Of course. No hesitation. No flinch. Liar. I changed the subject. Told her I might have to go out of town for a couple days for a work trip. She perked up a bit. Too much. "Where to?" "Denver." "When?" "Next week." She nodded. Didn't ask many questions. Just enough to look interested. I watched her walk out of the room and text someone the second she turned the corner. That night, I checked the camera footage again. Bingo. She sent a message, then called someone. Her voice was low, but clear. "He's going out of town next week. You know what that means." She giggled, and I knew exactly what they were planning. Perfect. Because I wasn't going to Denver. I wasn't going anywhere. But they didn't need to know that. The next few days were just me letting her believe the Denver trip was real. I mentioned flights at dinner, tossed out fake times like 6:45 a.m. departure and late check-in. I even printed a bogus itinerary and left it on my desk, just barely visible. She didn't ask to see it. She didn't even pretend to care. That's how sure she was that I was out of the way. By Thursday night, I told her I'd be gone first thing Friday morning and back Sunday evening. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, "I'll miss you." She wouldn't. The plan was simple. Pretend to leave, circle the block, then park 2 streets down. I packed a bag, walked out the front door at 5:30 a.m. with my roller suitcase, threw it in the trunk, and drove off like I was headed to the airport. I even sent her a text at 6:15. "Landed. Talk later." Then I parked, waited, and watched. At 10:42 a.m., motion alert. I opened the camera feed. Rick let himself in. No knock. No doorbell. Just walked in like it was his house. Lacey was in the kitchen, already dressed like she was going out. Short skirt.
Я
Full
бачу
makeup.
стакан Вики. А
No
що ти
bra again.
нервуєш? Не
That
понял.
same nervous giggle she always used when she was trying to act innocent. They didn't waste time. She poured him a drink. They sat on the
Що ти
couch.
нервуєш?
She leaned in. He kissed her. And then she said something I did catch, clear as day. I can't believe he's still falling for this. Falling for what? They laughed. He said, "You've got him trained. That man would believe anything." She replied, "That's why I picked him." That line hit harder than anything else. I wasn't just being cheated on. I was a mark. A soft, dumb fallback.
Що тобі
A
треба?
paycheck. A placeholder. I sat in the car, hands gripping the wheel, not even blinking. For the first time in this whole thing, I felt rage. Not just betrayal. Not just sadness. Pure, focused rage. But I wasn't going to act on it yet, because I still had cards left to play. And this time, I wasn't just recording for evidence. I was recording to destroy. I stayed parked for hours, watching, waiting, letting the footage pile up. At some point in the afternoon, Rick left the house. Shirt untucked, big dumb grin on his face, like a high schooler who just got lucky after prom. Lacey walked him out, kissed him on the porch, and then, get this, waved as he drove off. To her, this wasn't a fling. It was normal, routine, like a boyfriend coming over while her clueless husband was out of town. Except I wasn't gone. I was 5 minutes away, watching everything. I waited until she left too, dressed up again, purse in hand. She drove off around 3:30 p.m., probably thinking she had hours before I got back from Denver. I took that window and went home, straight to the bedroom. Changed the sheets? Nope, didn't even try to hide it. But that's not what I was looking for. I checked the usual hiding spots again, under the bed, back of the closet, bathroom drawers. Nothing new. But then I opened her nightstand drawer and found it. Another red box. Smaller this time. Inside was a folded note. "Next month. I'll do it. I promise." No signature again. Just a folded piece of paper tucked beneath it. A lease application. For this house. In her name. With Rick's phone number listed as an emergency contact. That's when it all clicked. This wasn't just an affair. Rick was the landlord. And Rick wanted me out. The lease ends next month. She's been planning this. She thought I'd leave. Or that I'd voluntarily move out when things just didn't work anymore. Then she and Rick would play house right here, in my home, under his name. That line from before echoed in my head again. That's why I picked him. It wasn't just cheating. It was calculated. She picked someone she could manipulate. Someone predictable. Someone who wouldn't fight back. She didn't pick a man. She picked a backup plan. And that's when I smiled. Because her plan was about to blow up in her face. I took pictures of everything. Then I made a few calls. To my friend Alex, a lawyer. To my friend Mia, a real estate agent. And to the property manager whose name was still on our original lease. Turns out, Rick didn't own the house. Not yet. Turns out Rick wasn't the big-shot property mogul he pretended to be. When I called the actual management company listed on our lease, I spoke with a woman named Terry. Super professional, no-nonsense type. I told her I was calling to confirm some details about our lease renewal. She pulled up the file and, boom, confirmed everything I suspected. Rick didn't own the property. Not even close. He was just the on-site maintenance guy. Worked under the property management group. The actual owner? Some out-of-state investor who didn't even live in the country. This guy had never met Rick or Lacey. Just signs papers, collects rent. But Rick? Rick had been pretending to be the owner. Collecting cash from some tenants directly, including us, whenever we paid early or did cash drop-offs to avoid card fees. Slick, but illegal. I played it cool with Terry. Told her I'd been confused and just wanted to be sure before we signed anything. She mentioned they were actually renewing the lease next month and were surprised we hadn't responded to the notice. Notice? That's when she emailed me a scan of the letter they sent. It had never been opened. The envelope was still tucked behind a stack of Lacey's magazines in the kitchen. She never gave it to me. Why? Because she was planning on not renewing. Letting it lapse. Letting me vanish. So Rick could take over and offer her a new lease under his name. Jesus, this was next-level deception. She wasn't just cheating. She was helping steal a house out from under me. I asked Terry for a copy of everything. Told her I was dealing with some legal stuff. She agreed to send it all over. By the time I hung up, my phone was shaking from adrenaline. That night, Lacey texted me. How's Denver? You back tomorrow or Sunday? I responded. Probably Sunday night. Got delayed. She replied with a heart emoji. I didn't answer.
Що ти
Instead,
нервуєш?
I started uploading everything I
Я
had.
бачу, що ти
Footage,
паника. Що ти
photos,
нервуєш?
the
Не
fake
понял.
lease she filled out, the new messages from the iCloud sync I kept active. But this time, I wasn't just saving it for myself.
Що ти
I created a
нервуєш?
folder. Named it for the record. Then I shared it with 3 people. My lawyer, Terry at the property management group, Rick's real boss. I wasn't going to blow up just yet. But when I did, I was taking them both down. Sunday rolled around. The trip was over. I pulled back into the driveway around 7 p.m. and walked into the house like nothing had happened. Lacey met me at the door with a
Що тобі
smile,
треба?
hair tied up, wearing that soft sweater she always used when she wanted to act sweet and domestic. I missed you, she said. I dropped my bag, kissed her on the cheek, and said, missed you too. She had dinner ready, steak, mashed potatoes, wine, the works. I sat down and listened to her talk about her week, her workout, her quiet weekend. She never mentioned Rick. She never mentioned the camera. She never mentioned the box I left open under the bed. Nothing. She was good. I'll give her that. She'd rehearsed this version of herself, but I was done pretending. You know, I said mid-dinner. I ran into Terry the other day,
Де?
from the property company. Lacey's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Oh,
А ну, зараз
yeah,
зачекай.
funny thing. She said Rick doesn't actually own this place.
Пішли зі мною,
Her
підемо,
eyes didn't
що
move.
у нас.
What are you talking about? She said he's just the maintenance guy, not the landlord. Definitely not the owner. A long pause. Then a quick, fake laugh. Oh my God, that's hilarious. I guess he just likes to act important. Right, I said. Totally harmless. We finished dinner in silence. She cleaned up while I went to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone on the nightstand. She came in a few minutes later and sat next to me. You okay? She asked. I looked at her and smiled. Yeah, just tired. Because now I knew how far she'd go. She would have let me move out, hand the house over, disappear, without ever admitting anything. But not anymore. Because Rick's little kingdom, it was already crumbling. And Lacey? She was about to find out what it felt like to be left in the dark. The next morning, everything started to move. I forwarded all the footage, screenshots, and Rick's fake lease application directly to Terry. I didn't explain everything, just attached a short message. Figured you should know what your maintenance guy is up to. An hour later, she replied, I'm forwarding this to corporate. We'll be contacting legal. Thank you. Boom. One down. Then I sent an email to Rick's company email, just one line. You might want to start looking for a new job. The management company knows everything. No reply. No read receipt. But I knew he saw it. I wanted Lacey to feel it too. But I didn't confront her, not directly. I let the house do the talking. That night, she walked in the door after work and froze. The lease renewal letter? I taped it to the fridge. Next to it, a printed screenshot of her text saying, can't wait for the day we don't have to sneak around anymore. She stood there staring at it for a full minute before speaking. What's this? I didn't even look up from the couch. Looks like your handwriting. Where did you get this? Does it matter? Her face dropped. This isn't what you think. Oh, so it wasn't about handing the lease over to the guy you've been screwing in my house. She sat down on the armrest like her legs gave out. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was going to stop. I laughed. Loud. For the first time in weeks, I really laughed. You weren't going to stop. You were going to let me walk out, weren't you? Let the lease expire. Let Rick slide in. Then what? Throw a housewarming party. She didn't answer. Just started crying. I don't want him anymore, she said. I want us. I stood up. You lost us the second you lied to my face and let that idiot parade around here like he owned the place. More silence. She looked around like she couldn't believe this was real. Then, what are you going to do? I'm moving out, I said. And you? You're going to be lucky if you're not homeless. She tried to stand. Wait, please, just talk to me. I shook my head. We're past talking. And I walked out of the room. I heard her fall apart behind me, but I didn't turn back. By the next morning, the fallout had officially begun. First call I got, Terry. She didn't even bother with pleasantries. We've terminated Rick, she said flatly. Effective immediately. Apparently, this wasn't the first time he'd blurred the lines between maintenance guy and creepy opportunist, but this was the first time they had solid proof, my proof. The video, the texts, the fake lease, the emails, all of it. She thanked me. Said corporate was launching an internal audit. Rick was done. I didn't tell Lacey. I didn't have to. She found out 2 hours later when she tried to call him and got no answer. Then again. Then again. Then she threw her phone across the living room and screamed. I watched it happen from the camera feed. She paced the house for hours. Tried texting him. Calling from different numbers. Sent him a voice message begging him to talk to her and saying she didn't know it would go this far. I bet she didn't expect the whole circus to collapse in one weekend. And she still didn't know I had sent everything to a lawyer. That night, she tried to talk to me again. Brought wine into the office like nothing had happened. You don't have to leave, she said. We can fix this. I was confused. I didn't think you cared about me anymore. I stared at her. You planned to replace me. I didn't, she shouted. I didn't plan any of this. You filled out a lease application. You called him the landlord. You said I'd believe anything. You made your choice. She just stood there, glass shaking in her hand. I lost everything, she whispered. No, I corrected her. You threw it away. Then I stood up, walked past her, and left the house. I didn't come back that night. She didn't sleep. I know, because I watched the camera footage the next morning. Just her sitting alone in the kitchen, crying, phone in hand, refreshing her messages like he might still come back. But Rick was already gone, and I was just getting started. The next morning, I scheduled a meeting with the property manager and their legal team. We sat down in a small conference room, and I handed over every piece of paper, every clip, every screenshot, neatly organized in a folder. They'd already fired Rick, but they had bigger concerns now. Turns out, Lacey had done more than just flirt with the idea of a lease. She'd submitted fraudulent documents, including forged pay stubs with inflated income, likely cooked up by Rick. The property team wasn't happy. She's not on the lease. She's not even a tenant, Terry said. Technically, she has no right to remain in the unit if you vacate. Cue the final blow. I handed them the move-out notice. Signed, dated, ready to go. I'll be gone by the end of the week, I said. Whatever happens to her after that is your problem. They nodded. And just like that, I pulled the pin. That evening, I came home with boxes. Lacey saw me packing and ran into the room. What are you doing? I'm leaving, I said calmly. And when I do, so do you. This place doesn't belong to you. Never did. You can't just leave me with nothing. I stared at her. You didn't seem worried about that when you were making plans with Rick. Her eyes filled with panic. You told them? She asked. About the lease? About everything? I just smiled. I told everyone. The panic turned to fury. You ruined my life. No, I said, you did. I just made sure you didn't get away with it. She lunged at me, shoving boxes, screaming, sobbing. But I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I just kept packing. When she realized she couldn't break me, she switched gears. Please, I don't have anywhere to go. I shrugged. You had a backup plan, remember? She didn't respond. She just sat down on the floor, surrounded by everything she'd destroyed, hugging herself like it would somehow put her broken little world back together. By the end of the night, I was halfway moved out. She kept pacing the house like a ghost, because she finally realized. There was no him. There was no house. There was nothing left. 2 days later, I handed her an envelope. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, still wearing the same hoodie she'd been living in since everything collapsed. Hair unwashed, eyes hollow, barely looked like the same person. She took the envelope and opened it slowly, hands trembling. Inside, a printed letter from the property management company. You are hereby notified that your occupancy of this property is unauthorized and will be terminated effective immediately upon the leaseholder's departure. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises. She looked up at me like I'd slapped her. You're really doing this? She asked, voice cracking. You thought you could stay here? I asked. After everything? Her voice rose, desperate. I didn't think it would end like this. No, you didn't think at all, I snapped. You were too busy planning your little fantasy life with a maintenance man. She broke then, fully, collapsed onto the bed, sobbing like a child. Not crying because of guilt, crying because the consequences finally showed up. Please, she whispered. Can't we talk about this? I shook my head. I did all my talking while you were lying. I walked out. That was the last full conversation we had in person. By Friday, I was gone. All my things packed. New apartment, new locks, new number. She tried to call. Left voicemails. Apologies. Long-winded emotional monologues full of excuses. I never listened past the first sentence. By Saturday, she was gone too. Management confirmed the locks were changed, keys returned. The house stood empty. And so did she. She lost the guy. She lost the house. She lost me. Because in trying to play us both, she ended up with neither. It's been 3 months. I haven't seen her since the day I left. Haven't responded to a single message. Last I heard, through a mutual friend she hadn't alienated. She's living in a one-bedroom sublet across town. Still trying to find work. Still processing everything. Still telling people I blindsided her. Of course. Rick? Gone. Fired. Blacklisted from every management company in the county. And from what I've heard, he's under investigation for collecting rent off the books from at least 2 other tenants. That little power trip cost him everything. Funny how people with nothing to lose always gamble the hardest and still act shocked when the house wins. As for me, I'm doing all right. I moved into a smaller place. Clean, quiet mind. No shadows of betrayal in the corners. No fake "I love yous" echoing off the walls. I sleep better now. Some nights I replay it all, not out of regret, but as a reminder of how fast things can fall apart, of how blind love can make you, of how dangerous it is to ignore your gut. Here's what I learned. If you're reading this because something feels off in your relationship, if you feel like you're going crazy, you're probably being lied to. If they act like you're lucky to have them, they're probably planning their exit. And if they start calling someone else, just a friend, check your Wi-Fi logs. People don't cheat by accident. It's not a moment of weakness. It's a choice. 1,000 little choices that lead to one big, disgusting one. Lacey chose to lie. She chose to cheat. She chose him. And in the end, she chose wrong.